Hello and welcome to this tutorial in which I'll be painting a Sector Imperialis building and some ruins from it. As usual, I started painting these models using a base coat of Chaos Black or a primer of Chaos Black. You can, if you want to use any other sort of primer that you prefer. Then through an airbrush I painted the entire model khaki, which is then followed by a zenithal highlight, just highlighting the majority of the pieces using bone white. A little warning straight from here, there's going to be a lot of airbrushing in this video, and also there's going to be it's a messy paint job. I wanted the buildings to look worn down, old, in a war zone, so nothing fancy and tight, and that sort of shenanigans will be going on. When the bone white has been applied, I reinforce this color in some parts using ivory, again through the airbrush, just reinforcing the color. It's not really a big deal if you accidentally hit the wrong parts, and it will get sorted out later. Then, using streaking grime and white spirit, I make a mixture to roughly this consistency. And this is quite a lot of white spirit and a couple of brush strokes with the streaking grime. And I'm gonna dab this on the entire model until everything is covered in a thin layer of it. And as you can see, this nicely changes the tone of the white color. It will leave some spots and some marks, and you can clean this up with some pure white spirit for the first couple of days after you applied it. I left the model to dry for roughly 24 hours to continue, and I was going to paint these floor panels. I started by completely spraying them black with the airbrush. Next, using barley gray, I painted in a random pattern on the tiles. And then using pale blue gray, I go in and reinforce these patterns and paint some additional ones where I felt it needed it. Also, it's perfectly okay to leave some of the previous layer completely untouched. Then I go in again using white, and I go over the same method, doing the same thing again, just building up that color a bit. I then used Army Painter Green Tone, and for some reason I didn't record it correctly, but I just went over the floor panels a couple of times, and I'm sorry for this completely weird footage, because like I said, I for some reason didn't record the correct footage. And I go over it a couple of times, just go over, let it dry, go over again, let it dry, go over again. Once that has been completely dried, I used steel, and again through an airbrush I'm gonna paint in the bottom of these floor panels, and also the upper edge on the walls will get hit, but that's not going to be a problem. As far as the other metallic parts, they are painted in with a regular paintbrush. Because this paint is really thin, it's pretty runny, so it's quite easy to paint in, but it's also quite easy to mess up. So once that's dry, again I take some white spirit and I start mixing in AK Interactive rust streaks. And I go to roughly this consistency. You can make it a bit darker or a bit lighter, just what you prefer. And now I'm going to wash in all the metal parts. And this the washing parts really are the messy parts. It also smells horribly, so do this in a well ventilated area. You will end up with a horrible headache if you don't. So again, left it to dry for 24 hours. And then I took bright bronze and I started to paint in all the bronze parts that I wanted on the models. I just randomly selected a couple of pieces that I felt would be nice to look, have a little bit of a different color, and painted them in just to break all the metals up a bit. Then I used tinny tin and I painted in these larger metal bands that ran around all the walls on the bottom and on the top, I believe, as well. And then I used Winsor&Newton's oxide of chromium, which is an oil paint, and again with the white spirit, and I make a mixture using this oil paint. When you use paint to make a wash, oil paint to make a wash, absolutely be careful that your brush is nice and clean when you are done mixing. So I mix this for roughly 40 to 50 seconds and then I have all the paint out of my brush. And now I'm going to wash all the bronzen parts, and I'm not going to be neat and tidy about it. And I'm going to wash the darker metal, the tinny tin parts. And as you can see, I applied this pretty heavy with a pretty big brush. Once all of this is dry, the model will roughly look like this. And again, I left it to dry for 24 hours because then it's safe to say that the white spirit has completely dried and the oil paint as well. I didn't completely like the effect on the bronze part, so I washed it with Airbrush Earthshade just to get a little bit more definition in there. And then using bright bronze, once again, I dry brush all the bronze parts. For the next stage I used silver and I dry brushed the bronze, the tinny tin parts and the metal parts with it, just really fast, really rough. Just get a little hint of the silver on there. Basically that finishes off these buildings. All I did to just give the buildings a little bit more effect, I painted in some OSL effects on the lights. I used turquoise to paint in the base layer, and don't worry about the overspray, that's gonna enhance the light effect. I then made a mixture of 1 part turquoise and 1 part white, and I try and just only hit the actual lamp now. And in case you're worrying that lights shouldn't be burning in ruins, you're right, but all my lights run on nuclear power cells, so they just keep working forever. Then using pure white, I painted the center of the lights, and just to have the actual light source in there as well, and this is the effect. Then for the final stage I use black and I paint the glassworks on the broken lights. After this layer, it was just a matter of putting some varnish on there. used Testor's dull coat. And the big building clearly didn't fit on my turntable, so here's a couple of the ruins, and I use some footage from battle reports for the bigger building, so that's not as steady as this, but you get an idea how it looks in the battlefield as well. So I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, dislike as well, but I think if you dislike this video you're long gone. And I hope to see you next time. So again, thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.